Hi there, and welcome to Intangify. I'm your host, Matthew Asbell. Here on Intangify, we talk about the intangible aspects of business. As you may remember, right, we had, Black History Month back in February and Women's History Month back in March. But did you know there was actually a month coming up in May, where we celebrated particular heritage? It's the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month coming up in May, which, frankly, I thought I was culturally competent, but I feel like I missed out on that one. Um, but in honor of that, and I have a wonderful guest for us today who's going to talk with us about cultural competency, a very important aspect of intangible aspect of businesses and arriving and reaching success in your business. So my guest is Seema Jain, and Seema owns the company called Seva Global, where she provides consulting services in relation to cultural competency. Welcome, Seema.
Thanks, Matthew. Great to be with you today.
Thanks. So glad you could be here. So, Seema, I think would love to hear to where we start out for the conversation today. Would love to talk to you about what you do, how you ended up doing it. Even maybe you could even share with folks how you and I connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if you don't mind, I'll start back a little bit at the beginning as I'm an immigrant's daughter. So my parents came from India in the 60s. And at that time, my father came to pursue a higher education. For many of you might know, Indians were kind of known to be in the doctor, engineer, lawyer, or medical field. We got these business fields, right? So we didn't have a lot of choices. So Dad decided to take his hand at finance, did his PhD right from your town of Columbia University in New York. And he was a professor of finance, accounting, and statistics. Well, fast forward to my college time, and he decided that you should probably do business and maybe finance and accounting would be great for you. He didn't give me other choices. Matthew, I was sort of told what I was going to do. And so I picked finance and followed his footsteps. Doing that was great. My first life was in healthcare, working on pro formas, discounted cash flow models, acquisitions of physical therapy centers. However, a few years later, my father decided to invest in hotels. And he decided to diversify his real estate portfolio and his investments. And so he took his hand in hotels. Well, I thought, you know what? I'm probably going to have to help him one day, and maybe I should learn a little bit about this industry. So for those of you who might be in this industry, there's a lot of different acronyms, and I didn't know them all. So I decided to join Marriott International and started right here in my hometown of Chicago at a resort. And I started in corporate sales because sales was a little bit sexier than number crunching. So I had a little bit more fun in that field. And I decided, Matthew, think about it. Your company might have an annual conference somewhere. Where do you stay? Probably at a hotel. So those were the types of bookings that I used to do. However, 2008 came along. And Matthew, do you remember what happened in 2008 to our economy?
Yeah, just a little.
A little. It was a little recession going on. But as a salesperson, Marriott didn't change my goals. I had to think out of the box. How am I going to get my sales numbers despite this economic recession? Similar to maybe what we might be experiencing here in USA today. So decided that I needed to think differently. And I found a group of ethnic travelers at a nearby hotel, a competitive hotel. And I thought to myself, why are they at that hotel? Why aren't they not at my hotel? That's where the business should be. So I followed them to find out that they were one of my accounts, called up the travel manager, and I said, hey, Sue, what's going on here? Why are your people at this hotel? Why are they not at my extended stay property? So she said, well, it's just right next door to the office. It's a little bit easier. Matthew, I don't know if you know anything about sales, but good salespeople are pretty hungry and they're not going to stop. So despite the proximity that was challenging her, despite the fact that I didn't really have a shiny new product, I had to think differently. So I approached my general manager. She happened to be Polish. I'm an Indian woman, Polish GM, working for a company that was started by Mormons. Really good multicultural story there. And I asked her, I said, Carolina, what if we did something different and put some ethnic items out for breakfast and ethnic TV shows and did things a little differently so we appealed to these people in a different way? So, Matthew, have you traveled around the world before?
Yeah, well, not around the world, but sure, some
Okay.
places.
All right. So I know you have family, your wife has family in Brazil, and maybe when you've gone there, after time, you might miss comfort food, something that you like, pizza, or something that you want, bacon and eggs, whatever it is. Well, not bacon for you, but otherwise, anything else you might want, right? Comfort food. So we decided that if we put comfort food out and different things to appeal, that they would like to stay with us. And sure enough, they enjoyed it. So this group was Indian. I put Indian breakfast out. I had Indian TV stations. I had a Bollywood night, and I brought all those people to my hotel. Shortly after, I did the Chinese market. I did the Japanese market with different things, whether it be miso soup or congee porridge. I learned to cater to someone's cultural needs and going beyond more than what kind of blanket you want or what kind of pillow, taking it a step further. The story went to the point that we invested maybe 37,000 and we were able to generate 730,000 in this one market. Now, Matthew, you don't have to be really strong in math or finance, but does that sound like a pretty good ROI for a company?
In
37
2008,
investment, 730,000 out.
don't give me that money. I don't want
Okay.
it.
Well, it is a good investment that it caught eye at Marriott Corporate, and they created a job for me to now do this for other hotels. So my job was, how do I make sure teams are ready with tools and resources to be confident so when they work with the customer, they're comfortable and they understand how they can drive their revenue and increase that client experience. So come furlough 2020 pandemic, I decided to leave the company I love so much and take this understanding of cultures to all businesses. When you and I met 2 years ago, I was presented by INTA to be a speaker for one of your sessions, and I interviewed you to learn a little bit more.
Let's tell them what INTA is, because not everybody would be familiar with that. So that's the
Okay.
International Trademark Association, which is an organization that people like me, intellectual property attorneys, regularly attend every year, just so people know what we're talking about. Please go ahead.
Good point. I realize, yes, that's like acronyms in our world of understanding. We should never assume. So thank you for clarifying. So a client approach said, we would like to have you come in and to present at INTA. And so I got to interview Matthew at that time. And first thing Matthew noticed is, wait, you don't have your logo registered and trademarked. I said, you're right. We need to work on it. So thank you to Matthew. On March 14th of this year, we got that all taken care of. And it's a very good feeling to know that it is official and everything is good. So you will now see that little tiny R that I love around my logo. So thank you for that, Matthew.
My birthday present to you.
It was your pie gift to me, 3/14. I will not forget that date. So moving forward, that's what I do now as Seva Global, is a company that helps foster cultural competence within organizations, making sure that they are able to increase their employee engagement, drive the bottom line, and most of all, customer experience is key. So I thank you for bringing me on today. And if I can share one more cultural tip with you, the word Seva. People might wonder, what does that mean? So Seva is a Sanskrit word that means the act of selfless service. Seva in the Indian community means that we are doing some good work, and it starts usually at home. Seva for your parents, taking care of elders. Seva for communities that might be underserved. So Seva is a word that I named my company so that I reminded myself every day, did I do a little Seva for somebody today? So as busy as we get in our world, to take a step back and remember we're there to help each other too.
Absolutely. And you're someone who has done a little Seva for me time and time again as well. So, and I greatly appreciate that. I think, pretty interestingly was the timing of all this for you, though, when you left Marriott and during the, it was during COVID, during COVID. And this is really a time, the past few years, there's a bit more focus in many industries and hopefully globally about cultural competency and about diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly. And so you're having sort of started your business at that time and sort of catering to that, I think was like really great timing, right? It's where it became something that many people became conscious of, and I'll include for myself, because I grew up a fairly privileged upbringing. I'm a white male, and issues facing people of different cultures, people of different races, different gender, right? Those things are not things that I readily, well, at least I was built to understand until I kind of looked a little bit more closely with the help of you and others. We're going to go to a break right now, and we'll be back in a few minutes. But thank you very much, and we'll see you shortly.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back to Intangify. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host, and my guest is Seema Jain of Seva Global, and we're having a discussion about cultural competency. Just before our break, I was mentioning, Seema, that the timing of all this was very good because a lot of aspects about diversity, equity, and inclusion started to come a little bit more to the forefront for many industries, and my own included. The issues of of who your colleagues are and finding diversity in your team and recruiting for diversity, thinking about your clientele and who you serve. These were really important things. So I'd love to really help the audience understand and appreciate the business impact of cultural competency and diversity, equity, inclusion from your perspective.
Absolutely. So you hit my favorite topic, right? The business impact, right? Having that business major, always looking at things through a corporate lens. How can we make this topic into a relevant topic for businesses? Not only is it the right thing to do when we work with clients and customers, but it has to make financial sense at the same time. So I always tell people, Matthew, that the future of DEI is cultural competency, right? Our landscape has changed in this country from 30 years ago. That next generation that's coming in is 50% people of color. if we don't understand how they were raised, what their upbringing is, what's important to them, we could miss some very, valuable candidates that we're interviewing. So when I look at the business impact, I look at it from two sides. One is the corporate side, which is the employee engagement, right? If I go to a company and I know that they recognize different people's holidays. So last Friday was Eid Mubarak. We wish to all of our friends who are Muslim and celebrating, right? Api's coming up, Asian American Pacific Islander, whatever it is, whether it's Ramadan, whether it's Lunar New Year, whether it's Diwali or Passover, Rosh Hashanah, whatever holiday it is, when we let our team members and employees know that, hey, if you need to take the day off, or I want to slow down this time because you're spending time with your family, that's an important part of keeping employees happy and engaged. When you do things like that, it also brings in great employee acquisition, right? Nowadays, Matthew, I have a 22-year-old who's graduating in 1 week. Yes, all my duties of paying those tuition checks are now done. I have no children on my payroll. But when she interviewed for companies, she did not look at a company the way I had to look at a company, which was just salary and benefits. That was all really that made a difference. The new generation is looking at companies differently. And if for firms that are hiring or companies that are hiring, we are not privileged to understanding that, we're going to lose some great candidates. So for example, they are looking at what is the company's DI efforts? What is their corporate social responsibility? What's their social impact? What are they doing in the community? What's their purpose? So it is much more beyond the traditional salary and benefits that I'm accustomed to from my generation. They're looking at companies in a very holistic way and looking at it from an authentic way. So I do applaud that Gen Z coming out for the way they're valuing things and making sure the mission of the company is aligned with their own personal values. And of course, we know, Matthew, if we get good talent and they stay with us because we're doing the right things, the retention is better, right? Just as there's a cost to doing business, a cost of losing, every time we lose a person, the cost of training a new person, it adds on. So if we do a good job to begin with, and I tell people, how many of you do in your onboard training provide a little bit of cultural competency to let people know that, yes, we are interested in making sure our teams are all culturally competent to excel with their owners, vendors, associates, or clients. So think about where you start in an organization to set yourself up for success. So that's the corporate angle. The market side is the story I shared. When you are out there as a salesperson, diversifying your revenue stream. Matthew, I know, I'm one client of yours. I represent maybe the Asian Indian, but hopefully your client base is also very diversified because we all talk. I have 10 names here now for you of my Indian friends that I think should get their training, and I'm going to send it because I'm comfortable, right? So then you have somebody who might be of a German background, a Brazilian background, a Middle Eastern. And what happens is in ethnic communities, we all talk and we bring a business to you. You don't even need to market because if we like you, you are going to be given the business. So things about diversification is important and strengthening your relationships with other partners, right? So if you work with an organization, how do you strengthen that? But my favorite part with the market lens is the good PR a company can get. And that means if you do good work in a very authentic way, in today's world, companies wants to know who's doing the good things, right? There's enough negative in the news. We want to showcase and shine some of the positive stories, the good work that people do. So I was very fortunate, Marriott, that I was able to get Washington Post into my session of cultural competency, then followed by CBS Evening News. Think about how much great limelight Marriott got for the good work it did in this space. So that is something I also like to do with my clients, is work with their PR teams to make sure that they are getting recognition for being in this good space.
So you said a lot there, and I made some notes. I made some notes of a few things I wanted to address.
Sure.
First up, I think I would be remiss if, with Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month coming, I didn't recognize my own colleague Chintan Desai, who works with me in trademarks and patents within my firm, and is a great ally and friend, and I'm so glad to be able to to work with him. But I guess I want to go back and think about clients and prospective teammates, colleagues, right? And the fact that they're not just looking at, what you provide, sort of your benefits and your salary or whatever, or even the services you provide if it's a client. I have clients that come to me and bring me, annual requests for information about diversity in my firm.
Wow.
The clients are awakened to this and ask us to recognize and think about diversity and make sure we have diversity on our team, such that if we don't, there's sort of a threat that we could lose the clientele or that people won't come to us. And that's kind of cool and not cool at the same time, because on one hand, it's sort of like it makes you feel like you have to do something, right? And there are, you mentioned the good PR that Marriott got as a result of the Wall Street Journal or CBS News coming to your session. There are a lot of people out there who see this as an avenue to getting for themselves, as opposed to selfless giving of Seva, right?
Yeah.
They see it as an avenue where, hey, this would be a really good way I could get attention. So let me put it out there. Let me put it out there in that way. Let me get the PR without really doing the work, without really being authentic about it. You use that word, authenticity.
That is the key. People know lip service, okay? People know when things are done for the right reason. It's not hard. It's not hard. If you have a dog or if you have an animal, they know if you're a dog lover, right? People know if you're genuinely a dog lover or if you're really afraid. So people are no different. We don't want lip service. We want to know it's authentic and it's done from the heart. But Matthew, one thing you just mentioned I want to touch on is the diversity of your team is key. So my team is only 6 people, but I have 4 generations spanning from, 22 to mature baby boomers. I have 2 in the LGBTQ community. I have a Jewish person. I have Asian. I have American. I have a lot going on for 6. And it's very purposely, intentionally done because I know that my company will grow the more different perspectives I bring to my table. So we may not always agree, but I do want to hear why they thought a certain way. And if everybody looked like me, that's not going to be successful. There's many statistics out there by many firms that say diverse teams will do financially better. They will have an impact in that way. So if you want that diversity, you have to be a little intentional. But for companies who come and say they want to see your DI report, kudos to them. You should have a very robust one and hopefully something to be very proud of.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just one other point though, which is, historically, as we would think about, sorry, I'm trying to think about it. We think about issues of race, diversity qualifications, whatever they might be, right? We're taught, and at least we were taught in this country, essentially to ignore that stuff, right? As employers, as teammates, people walk on eggshells. People are nervous about bringing up someone's race, something that's sensitive, their religion. And in a sense, this is sort of flipping that over and saying, no, people don't want to be invisible. They want to be recognized for who they are. They don't want that aspect of who they are to define them as to how, I only need you if you're my Indian colleague. I only need you to go talk to my Indian clients because that's what's going to help me get this work. They want to be recognized, for who they are and all the different aspects that they bring to the table, but also for their work and invisible in that sense. So you have to be invisible and highly visible at the same time. I think businesses might struggle with it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think one thing you nailed very much so is that we walk on eggshells in this country. And I think if we take a step back and realize we are going to make mistakes, period. We're humans. If you ask something with a genuine, kind heart, most people will take it well. Most, right? There's always going to be somebody one-off, but most people will see that you are genuinely wanting to learn, whether it's their culture, wherever. It's how you ask. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. You apologize and you move on, because we'll never get stronger in this and learn about people if we just are so afraid, so afraid. I love when I'm sitting in a cab and I'm talking to the cab driver and we're talking about where they're from, where I'm from, and we connect, right? So it's okay. Try with a good heart to ask a question. And yes, 1% of the time it may not work out, and that could be for whatever reason, but 95%, 98%, 99%, it will be okay. So accepting right away that we are humans, will make mistakes, but the trying with a good heart will definitely help you broaden and learn more about other people.
Thanks for that, Seva. We're going to go to break and we'll be back in a few minutes. You're listening to Intangify on talkradio.nyc.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
So you're listening to Intangify on talkradio.nyc. My guest is Seva Jain of Seva Global, and we're talking about cultural competency. Seva, we were talking before the break, and sort of two different topics we kind of addressed. One is really, the really need to be authentic and an appreciation for authenticity that people can see through lip service. But we also sort of talked about this sort of fear from employers and from colleagues about walking on eggshells. And I think it was an important point you brought up, really, about you will make mistakes, and it's okay to make those mistakes if you apologize and move on. I just wanted to revisit that, because for me, there's a tension between being authentic and walking on eggshells. And I would imagine that some of our listeners would, in their businesses would struggle with that tension. How do you be authentic and still, make sure you don't offend?
Right. No, these are great questions. And you know what? There's really no perfect answer, right? We are human beings. I cannot say everyone's a widget. They're all the same. I can't tell that even if I ask that person one day to another day, what their mood might be, right? There's other filters, there's other things that come in the way that could change the way they feel. So one day they might be in a great mood and they're all about talking about that. And the next day something could have changed, right? So as people, we have to read other people too. We have to see the mood. We have to see the situation. Are they interested? When I ask someone, where are they from? And sometimes I'll say, hey, my family's from India, where's yours? And if they say mine's from California, and I think they might have, a heritage, sometimes I leave it, or I have to sense, are they really just wanting to stop, or do they want to tell me their heritage, or their background? So you do have to put a little bit of the human side of understanding and reading body language and things before you do it. I've been very fortunate. I think it's just, I ask kindly, I ask nicely. Maybe a few times I've offended someone, but it also seems like they might have just been in a bad mood, right? It could have been something else. So don't give up on trying, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get of understanding. So for example, and I'll give you some of these tips later on too, but when we talk to our colleagues, even just going out to lunch with them and saying, yeah, tell me a little bit about how your family came to this country, or, because honestly, even if you're not, Asian or something, even Europeans, though they might look like they're from, their families have sometime at some point come to this country. Maybe it was 100 years ago, but their great-great-great-grandfather might have come here, right? So you can create a dialogue on anything. And one is, tell us about your family, how they came here, and see how they feel. You will sense if they want to talk, they're going to. And if they don't, you kind of just divert the topic then.
It's a little bit of a sort of US-centered kind of issue, arising from the whole melting pot theory, right? That in most other countries around the world, I mean, there are people from other places, but it's not like such a thing. Like, in fact, it's strange in many countries to ask somebody what their heritage is, their background, and sometimes it's strange here. But that aspect of, like, we want to know where people came from or where their families came from before and trace that back is a strange US concept.
Yeah. Yes. And, we have lived in America as an ethnocentric culture. Most of the world is pretty well versed in this area. We're just starting to catch up, right? So it's funny, one thing is my cousins come here from India. I love it when they say, one time somebody said, why do you have accents? Because we don't. Okay. From their perception, they don't have the accent. We do. And when you think about it, we do have accents, and there's 6 different. You have a Southern twang, you have a Northeastern Boston accent, you have a West Coast, you have a Midwest. We have a lot of accents in our country, but we don't see that because we just see what's in our country. We don't realize that the rest of the world has a hard time maybe understanding us as well, right? So once we open up our minds, Matthew, to realize that the perceptions of the world, to reorient a little bit of our thinking, to understand that people don't think the same as us, it does help, right? The word punctuality, that's another one. It doesn't mean the same to everybody, right? If, we're in this country, your 10 o'clock is 10 o'clock. Maybe to my German friend, it's 9:50 a.m., early is on time. And to my Indian friends, 10:10 is on time, right? So that one word is different to everybody. I think the biggest thing we need to do is realize that if we can respect the differences that make a difference, we're going to gain. And it's not going to happen overnight, Matthew. Even if we move that 1 degree, the needle just 1 degree to positive outlook, we're getting to be a better world where we can live in harmony back again.
Yeah, so I think, an underlying term behind what you said is kind of alignment, right? I mean, what I say and what I mean and how you interpret it and what it means to you are not always the same, and we need to kind of recognize and respect those differences in order to function well together. And if we have a diverse team, within our companies, we're more likely to understand that because we're dealing with other people who get it and they help us to understand.
Absolutely.
So I think, kind of going back in the conversation, we started out, apart from talking about your story and your background, which I love, we started really with, why businesses need to care and what's the business and marketing reasoning behind why they should care. And then having addressed that, we then talked about, how they or why or how they can recognize different things and what things they should do in terms of communications more generally and more abstractly. I think what I'd like to do now is move into where the rubber hits the road. You know, okay, I care about cultural competency. I want to have a diverse team and diverse clientele, and I want to communicate with them and align with them. What are things that businesses could do? What are 3-4 things that businesses could do today towards really doing that, walking the walk and actually seeing benefit from it? Do you have some thoughts?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what I do every day, Matthew, is help teams become better, become more confident, help them grow their sales and diverse pipelines. So this is something I love to do. But one thing is, let's just start out with the simple thing. You mentioned API at the beginning of the month, right? Or at the beginning of this podcast. API, the Asian American Pacific Islander. There's many things you can do here. And just for those of you who don't know, it is starting May 1st. It is the entire month. And it is because of the fact that the Japanese immigrants came to this country in the month of May. And so that was the first Asians that had come here. And then the Chinese immigrants were very instrumental in helping create the formation of our transcontinental railroad, so the completion of that work. So this month is here to recognize people in this community. And there's over 50 countries that actually, can come into this space, but to recognize. So think about this. You have people at your office, you have vendors, you have customers, you have people who are of Asian American Pacific Islander. Maybe recognize them, maybe do some initiative where bring them in to speak about their heritage or speak about how they came here if they want, but do something to recognize the month, whether it's buying something from a local store that is owned by API person, whether it's going to a restaurant to try new foods. I don't know about you, Matthew, but I love Vietnamese pho, and that's one of my favorites. So that's something you can do, is recognizing, right? Holidays, whatever major holidays there are, recognizing them. Sending an e-card to a client means the world. Matthew, if I sent you an e-card to wish you happy Rosh Hashanah, I'm sure it would just make a smile on your face, right? It doesn't cost a lot, but it is recognizing that these are high holidays of the Jewish community. And I want to be mindful not to bother you from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, right? So thinking about these things. So holidays is an easy one that you can do on a personal business level for your clients, vendors, teammates, employees. However, another thing you can do is realizing that you can make a public statement, an executive public statement, when something may not be going well. So George Floyd happened a few years ago. What did you do to help your teams get through this? When there was Asian American hate crimes, what do you do? Do you tell them, hey, let's talk. It's okay not to be okay, but let them have a platform where they can express their feelings, whether the town hall, your CEO comes together, but these are meaningful. Again, everything has to be done with authenticity. Lip service is not what we want. And new generations, they know this. We should always be mindful that you should do this from your heart. So those are a couple of things. What I do with my clients, if I know my clients from a different background, I might say, hey, I've never had German food before. Can you take me to a restaurant and teach me some of your favorite things? It becomes an engagement point with my client. We build a relationship, and you always work with people you trust and feel comfortable with. So that's an easy one, right? Food seems to be the universal language amongst all cultures that you can do. Another thing, I'm going to just give you some quick advice. I know you have small children, Matthew. Think about this. Multicultural, cultural competency does not need to start the day you graduate, okay? That is something that should be embedded in the corporate culture. However, we can start this at a young prime age, taking your kids to read books of different authors, to try foods that they cannot even say or not, not just macaroni and cheese and pizza and chicken nuggets, right? Broaden their palate. Children by the age 8 are developed. They've developed really of who they are. So why not get all that in? Expose them to music, to sounds of different culture, to dances, expose them to museums, whatever you can do to make them culturally literate. Increasing their cultural quotient at that age is imperative. So this way, when they grow up in the world, they are leading with a global mindset without even realizing that they're leading this way.
That's great. Thank you. I think as a parent, the part that I would struggle with is what specifically to expose them to amongst the various different cultures I could choose from in a given moment. Why am I picking one? And I think maybe, the idea that we have an Asian American Pacific Islander month or other months or days which recognize different people of different cultures, that sort of gives us that excuse. I would love, and I happen to know that certain companies often, will do these newsletters and will share information. I would love to get that sort of guidance to really help me to think of, this is an author that would be a good person, a good author to introduce my kids to in this particular month. How would I do that?
I will tell you those tips. So first of all, when you follow our company page on LinkedIn, we do promote Heritage Months, holidays, and we give 3 easy tips that don't cost money. It's not about a money thing. It is about being mindful and sensitive to other people. So I'm respectful that even though I don't celebrate Christmas, I'm not going to put a meeting 4 p.m. on December 24th because I know my colleagues do, right? So being mindful of when things are. The other thing I can say is definitely, follow our, newsletter, our company page. We try to give tips in there, cultural tips, whatever we can do to help you become better as humans and just better interacting effectively with people of diverse backgrounds. So we can talk more about that later on the last part as well. So hopefully that helps.
Great. Thank you. You've been listening to Intangify on talkradio.nyc. I'm Matthew Asbell. My guest is Seva Jain, and we will be going on a break. See you shortly.
Perfect.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Intangify on talkradio.nyc. I'm your host, Matthew Asbell. Our guest is Seva Jain from Seva Global. She does cultural competency workshops and other types of events on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Seva, we were talking before the break about Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we also had a conversation about this issue of the US being all about heritage and sort of where people came from, but that's not something really that always exists in many other countries around the world. My inclination when I was listening to you was, I do work with some Chinese colleagues in China. So do I write to them about Asian American Pacific Islander Month? How do I deal with that?
So that month is actually something that just celebrated here in USA to recognize the contributions of those who immigrated immigrated here and the contributions they've made. But what you could do is make it as a segue of, hey, in USA, this is what's happening. It sparked my interest to learn more about your culture. And I just took my kids to Chinatown in New York City because I want to expose them to many different cultures. And it was very fascinating. And I just, wanted to know what foods I should try or engage in a conversation, right? Engage in something. The one thing I do caution is when you do want to engage with someone of a different background, always make sure you speak only positives of that culture, right? Nobody needs to hear negatives. They can get that elsewhere. So if you tell me, oh, I hear in India there's a lot of poverty, yeah, but I don't need to hear that. I know that. If you tell me I hear India is great in its culture and Rajasthan is a beautiful state, tell me the good things. People will engage with you, right? Or if you're doing sports and your wife would know if it's Brazil and Argentina playing their football, yeah, well, if Brazil's not winning, we're not going to talk about it with our Brazilian clients. So you have to know things to learn how to engage. And the success of my sales and my business today is because I really do enjoy learning about other people, and they teach me so much. Whether it's ethnicity, race, religion, even generationally, they teach me. Our youngest team member has taught us so much. My younger team members are great. They're teaching me about the newest tools for project management. So generationally, ethnicity, race, religion, we can learn every day by how we ask and our true interest in another person.
That's great. Thank you so much. So I think I want to ask you about, your business, your clientele, and what you actually do for those clientele. So who are the ideal clientele and the ones you usually serve? And then when you do serve them, what are you doing with them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Matthew. Great question. So when we started the business, hospitality was my base. So it was mostly a lot of hospitality clients. Today, my revenue stream is probably 70% in the hospitality, which has many verticals as well. It's not just hotels. It can be airlines, it can be different things. And then you have 30% other. So just as we learned in the pandemic, I was in an industry that took a big toll. I want to make sure my revenue streams are well diversified. So if one industry doesn't do well, like we're seeing the layoffs in the tech industry, right? I just want to be prepared that I am diversified in my revenue stream. So what do? Clients will call and they want a cultural competency workshop. They want to engage their people to learn, how do we grow our business by being culturally smart? So that is what I do, is I tell them different things that they can do, from communication styles, understanding how you can grow in different ways. We teach 12 different cultures. Our most requested will be probably India, China, LGBTQ+, and Jewish is taking a rise thanks to Emma on my team. Tim heads up LGBTQ with Roberto, and Emma heads up the Jewish, and I do a lot of the other ones. But we enjoy it very much, what we do. We're all passionate. But just yesterday, a company called, and they are more into the hospitality, but of products that are used at hotels or multifamily, carpets, furnishings, floor furnishings, things like that. And they're very interested in learning about different cultures, and they're creating they want to create 4 series, one per week in the month of September. So we picked the 4 different series, whether it's LGBTQ 1 week, India, Mexico, and this way, each day, each week, their team members can learn a little bit more about a culture. Each of these workshops that we do on a cultural level, Matthew, kind of go on the core values of the culture: business protocol, social protocol, customs, holiday food. The difference is, I've had boots on the ground experience, so I bring it to you in that element. I am not an anthropology professor. I don't teach that way. I don't present that way. I like to bring education, entertainment, humor all together with heartfelt. And that's how I'd like to present. A lot of interaction in my class, and people get comfortable asking questions because I create a safe environment for them where they're okay. So we do workshops, presentations, half day, all day, 1 hour, multiple days, however you want. We design it for you because we like to customize it. So being in that hospitality industry for so long, I like to think that being in the Marriott world, I'm like the Ritz-Carlton of cultural competency. We want to give everything to our customers to make sure that they are getting everything that they expected, and that they look good in front of their leaders and teams when they bring these presentations to their organization. Still waiting for the day, Matthew, that I get to bring this to your company as well.
I'm working on it. What can I tell you? But actually, to that point, so let's say, look, we've recognized the value of cultural competency. We think it's worth having. We think that there's a need. We think there's people in our institution that or our company that could use these skills. And we decide we want to go ahead and get a cultural competency workshop or series or whatever it's going to be. If we're to do that, how do we know what to focus on, right? It's not going to just be like, well, okay, we need cultural competency, give it to us. And I also think that it's not going to be, our target market is, LGBTQ. Sometimes it might be, but very often, like if you're in my profession, we aren't categorizing people. We care about the need, and it doesn't have to do with sort of what they qualify as. So how do I know what to ask you for?
So great question. First thing is we set up time together on a call, and I'm your cultural advisor, right? I've been doing this for years. So my job is to assess your needs. Where are you thinking? Is it an annual conference? Is it an internal? How are you thinking? And once I understand, I will suggest the best one for you and the best approach, and then figure out the budget and make sure everything works. But to be honest, our overarching most popular presentation is how do you grow your business through understanding cultures? And it's an appetizer. I tell my clients, we're going to date first before we go to marriage, because I want to make sure I like you. You should make sure you like me. We want to make sure the audience is wanting more. That's the goal. I want to fulfill them to say, we love this topic and we want to keep learning. Because if I have a client like that, I'm not just a checkbox. That means they're truly investing in their people to take them to the next level. I'm a finance nerd by background, right? ROI is my life. So if this is not a good ROI for your company, then I have failed. Then I have failed. That is my job, to show you that this investment will lead to a much bigger picture in the end. Okay. So we have to take it as small steps will lead to great strides, but these impacts will make a difference in how people feel in their confidence when working with people of diverse backgrounds.
So I have this wonderful business development person in my firm. And when we talk about all these different endeavors that I do. And she's got me educated a little bit about getting feedback, evaluating, looking back and seeing if you met your goals or if you achieved your successes. Are you doing anything like that with people after you do a cultural competency workshop, in terms of getting case study information or getting metrics on successes or failures, for that matter?
Great question. We do reach back to our clients to see if they've had success stories. The thing is, because I'm not in their systems, I can't generate that information. When I was with Marriott, I could see, I was pushing $15 to $20 million in assisted sales. I could read those numbers and get that. So I am counting on them to share with me. We do check, and we love to note great success stories for sure, but it's up to them to give me that information and for them to compile it. So we know it's working because we get lots of emails that come back saying, wow, because of this, I was able to sign a contract, or because of this, I was able to do that. So we'll get these one-offs and things, but definitely they have to want it, and I tell Matthew one thing is, I can teach you all day. I can give you all the tools and resources. I can lead the horse to the water, but I can't make them drink it. So everything I give you, it's what you do with it to show your success. And that's the main thing, that you have to want this, you want to breathe it, you want to be passionate about it. It will be successful for you and your company.
Thanks so much. Well, with the last moment that we have for our podcast today, I wanted to ask if you have any final message you'd like to share with the entrepreneurs in our audience.
Yeah, I mean, one of my, being an entrepreneur, it was scary. You don't know if you're going to make it, don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And I am now 100% confident, 110% that this was the right decision for me, for my family. It helped me. But I think the one thing for any entrepreneur out there, you will have days where you're not sure. You'll have days that's like, oh, I just lost a big deal. And you're going to be, developing a lot of grit as you go through this. But the number one thing to remember is you have to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. So advocate for yourself, be there, surround yourself with positive people, surround yourself with people like Matthew who give you good energy, who want to cheer you on. And that's what it's about. So if ever you're having a down day, reach out to me. I love cheering people up. One of my Seva It Forward platforms this year is to help new entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs who are starting off, especially, to help them shine. And there's days, like you said, when you start, you're not sure. But then when Matthew put that trademark on, now I know I have to stay. I have to be part of this world forever. Now that I have my little R next to my logo, and so proud of it. So Matthew, thank you for being there for me. Thank you to your organization, your company, your university that I'll be speaking at next week, which will be fun. But I appreciate everything you've done. And I appreciate this opportunity to be on this podcast today. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Seema. Really great to have you. You've been listening to Intangify on talkradio.nyc. We are live on Fridays at noon Eastern time on talkradio.nyc. Please tune in next week. Look forward to seeing you then. Thanks.
Thanks.